Okay, a cyclist rode from town A to town B and then back. So went from A to B and then back. And the journey was 3 kilometers, obviously each way, because the towns are not moving. On the way there was an 8 kilometer an hour tailwind, and on the way back, 6 kilometer an hour headwind. The total time was 5 hours. Okay, so we are going to talk about physics again. What are some formulas you might know from physics? Velocity, speed equals what? Distance over time. What about time? How would we solve that? Distance over velocity. Okay, that's what I want. Okay, so what's the key sentence in this word problem? The total riding time was 5 hours. So I'm going to write this in words. The time there plus the time back would add up to 5 hours. Does that make sense? Time to go there, the time to go back makes 5 hours altogether. Okay, so we have this formula for time. It's going to be a fraction. Okay, so my fraction is going to have to be a distance divided by a velocity. Okay, ready? On the way there, what's the distance you traveled? 3. Should we fill this in? On the way back, what's the distance? 3. Okay, we are biking. We're cycling, we're biking. So, what is the speed? It's always going to be the speed of your bike plus or minus the wind, right? Does that make sense as a speed? How fast your bike is going, you're either going to be adding the wind behind you or taking the wind off from the front. Okay, so ready? On the trip out, there was an 8 kilometer per hour tailwind. So is that making me 8 faster or 8 slower? Tailwind. Faster. So the bike speed plus the wind at my back. On the return trip, there was a 6 kilometer an hour headwind. So headwind will make my bike speed slower by 6. Okay, and again, what if I give you the bike speed and you got to figure out the wind speed? Make sure that let's pretend I gave you a bike speed of 20. If I had given you the bike speed, you would have been writing this, right? W is now your variable. Okay, so you always add or subtract the wind or the current of the water after. Okay, so there we go. What do? Can we cross multiply this? No. We need to put common denominator on it. So what do you want to put in your denominator? You're going to need a b plus 8 in there. You're going to need a b minus 6 in there. Okay, you have to set both sides the same because that's the equal part of it. Okay, fraction number 1. Look at the bottom. Look at the new bottom. What happened? B minus 6 happened, right? So a b minus 6 would have to occur on the top. Okay, moving on to the second fraction, looking at the bottom of it and the new bottom of it. What happened? A b plus 8 happened on it. So a b plus 8 would happen to the top. Okay, last fraction, what happened to the bottom? It was a 1 and now it's all this. So all of this happened. Okay, we're going to dial in on this part. How do you multiply 3 items together? What's the trick? 3 items together. You should pick 2 of them. Which 2 do you want to pick? I'm going to pick these 2 because I like foiling. Okay, so b squared, what do those add to in the middle and what do they multiply to at the end? That would add to 2 and multiply to minus 48. Pick 2 of them, multiply, then multiply by the third item. So now I'm going to multiply by 5. 5 times 48. Okay, everybody is good with that algebraic step. Multiplying 3 items, you're going to run into it on your test. Pick 2 of them, do it. Then be done, and then multiply by the third item. Okay? Okay, so now looking at the bigger picture, let's put stuff together. There's 3b, so this could be a 6b. And there's a minus 18 and a plus 24. Okay, what do? What's the big idea of the next step? How do you solve equations? There's b squareds involved and b's involved. What do you do if there's a few things like that involved? 0. I would be minusing a 6 and minusing a 6b. Got a 0. Okay, so once we have it set to 0, we ask ourselves, do we factor it? So this would look like a complex. If I tried this flow number, it's massive, and I really honestly don't want to find all the multiples of that. It looks really hard. Can anybody just think of a different strategy for me if I don't want to do that? Formula. Okay, so B equals the opposite of the middle, -4 plus minus the square root of the middle number squared, 16, minus 4 bracket the first number bracket the last number, divide by 2 bracket the first number. Okay, so what I would do is I would get my discriminant value. Can you just do the calculator typing on your discriminant number? 16, subtract 4 times 5 times negative 246. Okay, are we all familiar as well how to type this in our calculator? You don't have to write this down, but this is me typing. Okay, remembering those skills about typing them in. Okay, make sure you're typing it in with me here. See if you remember how to do all that. 6.63 and negative 7.43. Somebody's matching with a head nod. Thumbs up. Okay, so what did we find out? The bike speed. What do you know about bike speed? Negative bike speed? Nope. So this is the answer, and I want some units on the end of it. If you don't put units on the end of it, I'll just take a communication point off, which is a small but a little bit off. What do you want to say as a speed unit on a bike? Kilometers per hour is a speed unit on a bike, right? Does your answer seem reasonable? Okay, always asking yourself that. Again, I told you somebody on a test told me that the water speed was negative once. Somebody else told me that the water speed was 300 miles per hour. Okay, reasonable answers.